Disclaimer. The following test you are to witness requires a minimum clearance level of 7, as it is classified information. Unintended viewers face capital punishment without the due process of law or trial. The United States government-funded program was sanctioned by the Department of Homeland Security during the early 1990s in an attempt to cure people of their abnormalities. Project was soon set in motion to explore the concept of correcting people's mental flaws through extremely intense psychological strain. The subjects chosen to depict and disclose the mannerisms of this project have displayed signs of mental error through prior altercations and are in need of the special kind of help we are providing. The violence that may be portrayed by some of the subjects is real, and any/all feelings of emotional remorse should be disregarded, as these sick people, they are not normal and shouldn't be seen as such. All 5 subjects have been confined and locked into their personal space. Each subject has a task at hand that needs to be solved in order to gain their freedom. Each subject's task has specifically personalized to fit the subject's prior altercations, causing scrupulous anxiety and mental strain in hopes to break the intended's habits. The subjects in their attempting to solve their task will be monitored and recorded at all times for legal purposes by a contracted third-party media team. The media logs will be withheld from the synopsis at the end of the presentation. Log Entry 1, Subject 037, Thomas Williamson. Error: uncontrollable anger, violent tendencies, drown children on account of cheating wife. Example: chance of task completion 0%. Subject 037 awoke slowly and calmly as if he hadn't noticed he wasn't home. His bed had been transported along with him for the sake of keeping him asleep. He tossed and he turned in the same spot for a moment. His eyes seemed to be struggling to adjust to the fluorescent artificial lights beating down upon him. He awoke abruptly, as if he'd noticed everything at once. The awkward 5-wall room reflected his tense and spasmodic movements. He took a moment to peer up at the ceiling, the blinding light hiding the water release valve and cameras. What the hell is this? The subject is understandingly upset as he shuffles about, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead and profusely drip down his face. Where the hell am I? He shrieks, voice shaking in fear. His eyes tell us he's well aware of what he's done to deserve this. The static of the loudspeaker sounds, followed by a ruffled voice. Mr. Williamson, you have been found guilty of third-degree manslaughter, second-degree murder on 2 accounts, and assault of a minor. You face capital punishment. Right to speedy trial and jury of your peers has been abolished. The last meal has been discontinued as a formality. The speaker went silent as the recording was cut short. Subject 037 was settled in the corner, sobbing belligerently as if he didn't deserve his punishment. The hushed screech of the water release valve's opening could be heard. His face twisted as he leaned over to vomit over the side of his bed. I've never seen such helplessness in a man's face before. He whimpered quietly as water began to leak from the ceiling. As planned, the stream grew larger and larger until gallons were dumping from the ceiling. The poor man stayed atop his bed in a final display of desperation. You could see in the young man staring himself in the face with every breath of water he choked on. The look in his eyes were off-putting and regretful. The tank filled with water, Subject 037 remains alive and conscious. He squirms without intent under the water before he decides to hopelessly claw at the ceiling. He continues his struggle until he accepts the inevitable. His eyes roll back and his lifeless corpse floating weightlessly about the tank. Hopefully this will be enough to motivate the others.
Subject 50. This test subject is receiving the death penalty for killing his wife in order to collect her life insurance. His name is William Harvey, and he has a drug problem. He planned on using the money for the life insurance to buy more drugs to help his addiction. He bolted upright out of his chair in a panic. Anyone would when they last remember being in their bed and just saw a random man drown to death. He looked at his surroundings, which were nothing but cement walls, a single light bulb hanging from a chain, a door, the chair he was sat in, and a table which had 10 different pills and an envelope in the corner. He walked over to the door and attempted to open it, but of course it was locked. I could see the panic on his face. He sat at the table and stared at it for what seemed like centuries until he eventually decided to tear open the envelope. Inside of the envelope was a letter which read, Dear William Harvey, you may be wondering why you're here, or where you are. The man you saw drowned to death was an example. He committed a crime which he cannot be forgiven, and so have you. You thought nobody knew, but someone is always watching. Since you love drugs so much that you would kill your own soulmate just to have a good time, you deserve the cruelest of punishment. You have been injected with the same poison that of a rattlesnake. In about 30 minutes, your blood will clot and you will perish just like your wife. On this table lays 10 drugs, one of which is a medicine which will fight off the poison. The rest are street drugs, such as meth, heroin, cocaine, bath salts, Molly, LSD, psilocybin, mushrooms, and morphine. You may enjoy one or two of these at the same time, but taking more than 5 will most definitely kill you. Your chances of survival are very slim, and so is the chance of you being forgiven. It is possible to live, but you better hope you either know your drugs or luck is on your side. You like drugs enough to kill your wife for them, so you should enjoy this. Best of luck. Sincerely, Government Testing Facility 404. He began to stare at the table again and hit his fist in frustration. The amount of stress he's under is very high. He started to pace the room back and forth, most likely thinking of ways to get out of this. Another way to get out of this awful place. But there's no other way. He sat at the chair once more. He grabbed the 4th pill from the left of the table. Slowly and with steady hands, he swallowed it. The drug he had taken was Molly. He sat there and waited. Molly is known to bring up a person's heart rate and make them very anxious and gives them a feeling of being wired. He sat there once more with nothing but the sounds of fear in his own thoughts. He took the 6th pill from the left, which is cocaine. This drug will not only multiply the effects of the Molly, but will make his heart pump out of his chest. Then all of a sudden, he picked up all the remaining pills and just took them one by one. This came to me as a shock, but at this point I believe he gave up all hope of survival and decided to just go out with a bang. He got up and started to run around the room. He started to punch the walls and flip the table over. He tore up the letter and broke the chair on one of the cement walls. He laid in the center of the room out of breath and his eyes popping out of his head. He closed his eyes. His final sight was a single light hanging from the ceiling. A TV turns on and begins. Subject 63 loves his music almost to where he'd kill for it. Piano has been placed in front of you. Your music is going to shuffle through songs while playing, and you must keep up. But be warned, every time you strike a key, the music gets louder and echoes through the room. You have 3 attempts. If you fail this, you will be killed. Do you need to hear the playback again? He asked, "Where am I? What is all over me? Who are you?" Time is of the essence. Play now. He looks down at his hands, sweating nervously, wondering how he even got there. He begins playing around with the piano. He has been playing for years, so he isn't very worried, noticing it's getting louder. He starts getting annoyed and begins trying to stand up, with a shotgun landing on the bridge of his nose while noticing he is nailed to the floor by his shoes. 1 attempt are left. With fear swelling his head, all he can think about is how could they know, or where he lived, or any of this. Till the song switches first, he catches on quick enough till the songs continue to grow in volume till Subject 63 starts bleeding from his ears. Not being able to hear anything at all, he begins to panic and cry, accepting fate, and stops playing the shotgun, lays down, and...
Subject 36. He wakes with an uncertainty and confusion as if he had a concussion before rendering consciousness. Subject 36. Known for his cannibalism and gassing his victims before consumption. We starved the criminal after flushing out his stomach until nothing remained. The sad thing is, he's never going to taste another piece of meat for a while. That moment awaits shortly. The audio was clear as the microphone was implanted within his canal. "Yo, man, I don't know what this is, but I could use some food. Some meat preferably," the subject assures with caution. He looks around the area he's in and sees the note we've conveniently placed for him to see. The note reads, "Follow your nose. A simple game of hot and cold. With little instruction, we hope to see that if he's smart enough to know how to get out." The room is a maze, but with a little bit of a twist. You know that one experiment where they put a mouse in a maze and a piece of cheese is at the end? As the mouse follows the scent of his prize, they're rewarded in the end for making it out. But with this, there's a variety of smells. From an erotic aroma to deathly odors one's gag reflex tends to be sensitive in, then you throw up.
Now that the experiment has been examined, it's now ready to test. The subject starts by taking the note from the wall and reads it in awe. What kind of joke is this? Damn, man, at least give me some instruction other than this crap, he illustrates with concern. Not knowing what is happening or what to expect, he goes down the first corridor and immediately reacts to the smells he has been presented. On the end of the corridor he entered on the left, leading to the first section. The subject gags unpleasantly as the first smell that has been released was hydrogen sulfide. Imagine someone passing gas with your smell increased by 1,000 times, like a canine. That's what the subject should be smelling at the moment. He coughs and hacks like his throat is made of sandpaper, grinding on a piece of an oak plank. He plugs his nose, trying to breathe out of his mouth, and enters the next section of the maze. The next gas that has been leaked is carbon monoxide. It's tasteless, odorless, and he cannot see it. A shame he thinks he's safe in that room with the smell of freshly cooked venison. The subject, swiftly trying to find an exit, begins to look weak, somewhat immobile, but we'll see how far he does. Starting to gag more harshly in the air he's currently subjecting himself to, the lab rat is now vomiting up blood with a great deal of pressure going through his body with nothing to vomit up. His stomach is completely empty. It'll be over soon. He's getting closer to the exit with enough time to spare. But the last corridor has a little twist that no one can handle with this lack of gluttony and mental capacity. What the hell are you doing to me? This is inhumane, shouting ironically with what little breath the subject carries left. Hyperventilating, exhaustion, poison in his system with such luck, the gas in the last corridor is now available within the proximity. The last gas that has been released is none other than the lethal cyanide. As expected, with little life swimming around in him, he takes a breath and falls to the floor. Foaming at the mouth like Mentos in a Diet Pepsi bottle, he begins to siege and spaz around the floor, barely 15 feet away from the exit. His heart went into cardiac arrest, and within 73 seconds, the subject sucked in the last breath that he would ever breathe. Toxic air with acid rain, it's all just a matter of time before it starts to storm and rummage through every bit of the life they so held on to dearly. In the end, he didn't make it, as calculated. Subject 36. Time of death, 1653. Sex, male. Cause of death, breathing in toxic fumes causing excruciating damage to his internal being. The experiment, subject failed to